أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. This is our 14th episode in Introduction to Rijal Studies. We continue with the mass authentications that have been addressed in Ilm al-Rijal. Today we will discuss a individual that deserves, an entire episode, and this individual is Ahmad ibn Mohammad ibn Issa al-Ashari al-Qummi. First of all, before we get into al-Ashari al-Qummi, the Ashari clan was a Arab clan. They were Arab, and their origin was from Medina, and then they migrated to Kufa, and from Kufa they migrated to Qom, a city in Iran. And they were known as the Ash'ari family, Al-Ash'ari. They migrated to Qom, but they were Arab. They were not Persians. They were not Iranians. So this is one. Two, Qom at the time was a city-state. It was independent. Although it was in Iran, but it was independent, religiously and politically. It even had its own army. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa was the leader of this city-state. He was the leader of Qom. He was the religious leader and the political leader of Qom, as we shall see. Religiously, he was the marja', basically. Of course, this was at the time of Imam Rida, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Hadi. It was during the period of the Imams. It was during this period. So Sayyidah Ma'suma went to Qom, and she was buried in Qom at this time, because Sayyidah Ma'suma is the daughter of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far and the sister of Imam Rida. So she had already moved to Qom. There was a clan, there was a city. In Qom there were a lot of Shia, and she migrated there. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa is a very well-known figure. And usually he's called Al-Ash'ari al-Qummi. When they say Al-Ash'ari al-Qummi, although this is a title, this is a family title for many individuals, but usually they mean this individual, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa was the head of Qom, was the head of the Ash'ari clan. And let me tell you a bit about Qom. The Ash'ari family in Qom, they were very strict in hadith. They didn't accept any hadith, just random hadith. No, they had a strict methodology. They were very strict. They were very careful into whom they would accept their narrations, whom they wouldn't accept their narrations. Very strict methodology. As opposed to Kufa. In Kufa, hadith was spreading. There were lots of narrations. There were lots of narrators. There were lots of transmitters. And the transmitters of Kufa, they would transmit the hadith regarding the karamat of Ahlul Bayt, the qualities of Ahlul Bayt. Not your normal qualities of Ahlul Bayt. For example, the qualities of their knowledge, their miracles. Narrations that they're not easy for people to accept, random people to accept. They're very strict, very hard to accept ahadith. Those ahadith in Qom were banned. They were called ghulu. Such ahadith that talked about the miracles of the Imams, the knowledge of the unseen, ilm al-ghayb of the Imams. These narrations in Qom by the Ash'ari family, they were considered to be ghulu. Having said this, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa al-Ashari al-Qummi, being the leader of the city-state of Qom, enjoying religious power and political power, it is said as a mass authentication that anyone whom he relies on was reliable and trustworthy. And you have to remember that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa was a contemporary of three Imams. Imam Rida, whom he visited, he saw, Imam al-Jawad, and Imam al-Hadi. He doesn't have any narrations from Imam Rida, but he has narrations from Imam al-Jawad and Imam al-Hadi. Some of these narrations were directly from the Imams, other narrations were from transmitters. So he narrated from transmitters and narrators from the Imam. Now, where do we get this mass authentication? For example, first of all, let me read you what some of the scholars of Rijal said regarding Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. So An-Najashi, he says, وأبو جعفر, his kunya was Abu Ja'far, شيخ القميين, the Shaykh of the Qummis, ووجههم وفقيههم غير مدافع, وكان أيضا الرئيس الذي يلقى السلطان ولقي الرضا وله كتب ولقي أبا جعفر الثاني وأبا الحسن العسكري. So he was a scholar, he was a leader, he met Imam Rida, he narrated from Imam al-Jawad, and he narrated from al-Imam al-Askari, Aba al-Hasan al-Askari, meaning al-Imam al-Hadi. So Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa had all of these qualities. He was a leader, he was a scholar, he was a narrator. He met at least al-Imam Rida and Imam al-Jawad and al-Imam al-Hadi, three Imams, and he narrated from them. And he has lots of narrations in the four books of Ahadith, in Al-Kafi, in Al-Tahdhib, Al-Istibsar, من لا يحضر الفقيه. In fact, there's a book that has been attributed to him, Nawadir Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. And perhaps, inshallah, in future courses on Ilm al-Rijal, we can discuss his book, Nawadir Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, and how reliable is this book. Now, where does this mass authentication come from? Because it is said that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa does not rely upon weak narrators. The origin of this mass authentication is based upon the following. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, as we said, was the leader of the city-state of Qom. He kicked out certain individuals from Qom. These individuals, they were not criminals, they were not political dissidents. No, these three individuals were narrators of hadith. Specifically, they were Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Ibrahim, also known as Abu Samina, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid al-Barqi, and Sahl ibn Ziyad al-Adami. These three individuals were kicked out of Qom by al-Ashari al-Qummi, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa al-Ashari al-Qummi. And it is said that he kicked them out of Qom because they were weak. They were weak themselves, they were weak narrators themselves, and because they relied upon weak narrators. They relied upon weak narrators, or they relied upon unknown narrators, majahil. So they relied upon dha'af and majahil. Or they would narrate narrations that do not have a sanad, that do not have a chain of narrators, marasil. So they would say, the Imam said so and so, without mentioning the chain of narrators. And this is a problem. You can't mention a narration without mentioning the chain of narrators. Why? Because there could be certain individuals that are weak. So let's see these three individuals that were kicked out of Qom by Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa and see why were they kicked out. Because in order to decide whether this mass authentication can be accepted or not, you have to see why were these three individuals kicked out of Qom. So regarding Abu Samina, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Ibrahim, An-Najashi says, وَكَانَ وَرَدَ قُمْ, he came to Qum, وَقَدْ اشْتَهَرَ بِالْكِذْبِ بِالْكُوفَةِ, he was known to be a liar in Kufa. وَنَزَلَ عَلَى أَحْمَدِ ibn Muhammad ibn Isa مُدَّةً, he came to Qum and he was a guest of Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. ثُمَّ اشْتَهَرَ بِالْغُلُو, and then he became famous for ghulu. Ghulu means attributing qualities to the imams that don't belong to them, that actually belong to God. Ascribing God-like qualities to the imams. فَجُفِيَ, and because of this reason, Abu Samina was cut off, was excommunicated. وَأَخْرَجَهُ أَحْمَدِ ibn Muhammad ibn Isa min Qom, and Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa kicked him out of Qom. This is what An-Najashi says in his biography. Ibn al-Ghada'iri says something very similar to that as well. So this is one individual that was kicked out of Qom by Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. Another individual is Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid al-Barqi. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid al-Barqi, there's a very famous book called Al-Mahasin, Kitab Al-Mahasin, which is a book of hadith, which is very large. It's almost as large as Al-Kafi. It's ascribed to Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid al-Barqi or to his father, Muhammad ibn Khalid al-Barqi. There's a debate among scholars of Rijal and Hadith that does Kitab al-Mahasin belong to the father, Muhammad ibn Khalid, or the son, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid. Anyhow, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid lived in Qom, and the Qummis, as we said, Qummis were very strict in Hadith. They had a very strict methodology. They wouldn't allow people to come and spread narrations, especially the people of Kufa, the narrators of Kufa, the school of thought of Kufa. Today, just like there's exchange students, where people from the U.S. go to Japan, or from Japan they come to the U.S. At the time, there was exchange students, but it wasn't something formal. Students from Kufa would go to Qom, people from Qom would go to Kufa, and so on and so forth, and they would spread the ideology and the teachings of their former Hawza or school of thought in the new school of thought. So there would be transmitters from Kufa who would come and transmit the ahadith of Kufa and Qom, or vice versa. The Ash'aris in Qom were very strict. They wouldn't allow just anyone to come and spread narrations because they had a very strict methodology. And they were very strict with ghulu, narrations of ascribing godlike qualities to the imams. Of course, they perceived them as godlike qualities. Others the people of Kufa would disagree. They would say these are not godlike qualities. For example, the imam has the knowledge of the unseen, ilm al-ghayb. This is not a godlike quality. Why? Although this is off topic. Because Allah has knowledge of the unseen independently, while the imam has knowledge of the unseen but dependently, depending on Allah. So innately he does not have knowledge of the unseen. But because God gave him that knowledge, he has knowledge of the unseen. Anyhow, this is a very long debate, and this should be debated in ilm al-aqaid, not ilm al-rajal. Al-Barqi, Ibn al-Ghada'iri says regarding him, طَعَنَ الْقُمِّيُّونَ عَلَيْهِ, Qummis, they denounced him. And then he says, وَلَيْسَ الطَّعْنُ فِيهِ وَأَنَّمَا الطَّعْنُ فِي مَنْ يَرْوِي عَنْهُ. Al-Barqi, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid, he was reliable, but the problem is he relied upon untrustworthy sources, unreliable sources. فَإِنَّهُ كَانَ لَا يُبَالِي عَمَّنْ يَأْخُذ. He didn't care who he relied upon. As long as he would hear a hadith, he would write it down in his book. Was that source reliable, unreliable? He didn't care. And then he says, كان أحمد بن محمد بن عيسى أبعده عن قوم. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Issa, he kicked him out of Qom. ثم أعاده إليها واعتذر إليه. And then he returned him back to Qom and he apologized to him. Al-Allam al-Hilli, he also says regarding Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Khalid that when Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa kicked him out of Qom and then he brought him back to Qom, when Al-Barqi died, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, he walked in his burial and he regretted why he had kicked him out of Qom. مشى في جنازته حافيا حاسرا ليبرئ نفسه مما قذفه به. So Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, he regretted why he had kicked out Al-Barqi. He brought him back to Qom, he apologized to him, and when he died, Al-Barqi, when he died, Ahmad ibn Muhammad, he walked in his burial barefoot, حافيا حاسرا. حاسرا meaning without a turban, without a head cover. And this, for the Arab, walking barefoot, walking without a head cover, this is a sign of sadness. This is a sign of regret. This is a sign of remorse. So he was showing how remorseful he was for doing this to Al-Barqi. Shaykh At-Tusi says regarding Al-Barqi that he was reliable, but the problem is وكان ثقة في نفسه غير أنه أكثر الرواية عن الضعفاء واعتمد المراسيل. The problem is that he was reliable, but he relied upon unreliable and untrustworthy sources. The third individual that was kicked out of Qom was Sahl ibn Ziyad al-Adami. Sahl ibn Ziyad, Al-Ghada'ari says كان ضعيفا جدا. He was very weak. فاسد الرواية والدين, that his narrations are weak, his school of thought is weak. وكان أحمد بن محمد بن عيسى الأشعري أخرجه من قم. And that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa had kicked him out of Qom. Al-Najashi says regarding him, Sahl ibn Ziyad, that وكان أحمد بن محمد بن عيسى يشهد عليه بالغلو والكذب وأخرجه من قم إلى الري وكان يسكن فيها. That Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, he would testify that Sahl was a mughali, he believed in ghulu, and he was a liar, and he kicked him out of Qom, and he sent him to exile to Tahran. Ray means Tahran. طيب. From all of this, some scholars, they gathered that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, who was so strict, he would kick out Sahl ibn Ziyad, he kicked out Al-Barqi, he kicked out Abu Samina. Why? Some of these individuals were weak. Some of them, they were not weak, but because they relied upon weak narrators. That means Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa does not rely on weak narrators. You can't punish someone for something that you are guilty of, right? That's not logical. A father can't punish his son for smoking. When a father punishes his son for smoking, that means the father doesn't smoke, right? You can't punish someone for something that you're guilty of. So when Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa punishes these three individuals and kicks them out of Qom for relying upon unreliable and untrustworthy narrators, that means he doesn't do that. He only relies upon trustworthy narrators. And among those who believed in this mass authentication was Al-Wahid al-Bahbahani, the great scholar Al-Wahid al-Bahbahani. He says, how do we know if a narrator only narrates from trustworthy individuals? If he mocks others for relying upon untrustworthy narrators, that means he only relies on trustworthy narrators. Otherwise, why would he mock others? However, it seems that this mass authentication is not very accurate. Why? Because when we see the biography of these individuals that he kicked them out of Qom, it wasn't just because they were weak or because they relied upon weak narrators. No, it was much more than that. So for example, Al-Barqi, he didn't kick him out of Qom because he was weak. And this shows that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa does not rely upon weak narrators. No. The problem is that Al-Barqi, he relied upon weak narrators, and he would narrate marasil, meaning some of his narrations did not even have a chain of narrators. Al-Barqi would immediately narrate from the Imam. Although there's intermediaries, there's people in between him and the Imam that he relied upon. Who are those individuals? He doesn't mention. This shows that Al-Barqi was careless. He didn't care what his sanad was, what his source was. As long as he mentions the story, as long as he mentions the narration, that was the most important thing for him. Who were his sources? He doesn't care. So Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa kicked him out of Qom for this reason. Not just because he narrated from weak narrators. This is one. Two, Abu Samina, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Ibrahim, this individual was known to be a liar. لِاشْتِهَارِهِ فِي الْكِذْبِ بِالْكُوفَةِ. This person was a liar, known to be a liar in Kufa before even coming to Qom. Before coming to Qom, he was known to be a liar, number one, and to be a mughali, number two. He believed in ghulu, and his narrations were full of ghulu. So he didn't kick him out of Qom just because he relied upon weak individuals or that he was weak himself. It wasn't just that he was weak. He was known to be a liar, and he was known for ghulu. And as for Sahl ibn Ziyad, same thing. Sahl ibn Ziyad was known to be a mughali. His narrations had ghulu. His narrations had ascribed to the Imam's godlike qualities. وَفَاسِدُ الرَّوَايِ وَالدِّينِ, as Ibn al-Ghadari said. His school of thought, meaning his ideology, was false. He was a mughali, and his narrations were false, according to Ibn al-Ghadari. That means he was very, very weak. So when Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, he kicks out individuals like this, it's not just because they were da'if. No, because they had all of these bad qualities, either ghulu, or they were famous for being liars, or because they were careless when they narrated narrations. They were careless. Who was their sources? Or because there was a problem with their ideology, and there was a problem with their narrations. For all of these reasons, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa kicked these individuals out. Does that mean that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa only narrates from trustworthy and reliable sources? No. It's very much possible that he could rely upon someone that's simply weak, right? But not someone who has all of these bad qualities. So this is a counter-argument that has been mentioned. Another counter-argument that has been mentioned specifically by Sayyid al-Khoi, that it has been proven that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa al-Ashari al-Qummi has indeed narrated from certain individuals that were weak. So Sayyid al-Khoi, he lists at least 4 individuals that are weak, yet Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa narrated from them. So there is no mass authentication. We can't say that al-Ash'ari al-Qummi only relies on trustworthy individuals. Who are those individuals that were weak, that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa relied on? They are Muhammad ibn Sinan, Ali ibn Hadid, Ismail ibn Sahl, Bakr ibn Salih. However, according to my research, when I went and I searched, these 4 individuals, we don't know for a fact they were weak. Some scholars of Rijal said they were weak. Other scholars of Rijal said they are not weak. So the second argument, the second counter argument put forward by Sayyid al-Khoi, it's under question because we don't know for a fact that these 4 individuals were weak. So we can't say for sure that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa did rely upon weak narrators. So we go back to the first counter argument, that the individuals that were kicked out of Qom by Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, Abu Samina, Sahl ibn Ziyad, al-Barqi, did he kick them out just because they were weak, or they relied upon narrators that were weak, or was it much more complicated than that? It seems that it was a lot more complicated than that. It wasn't just because they were weak or that they relied upon weak narrators. There was a lot, the issue was a lot more complex, and it's tied to political and ideological issues. Thus, can we benefit a mass authentication from Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa's sources? The issue remains problematic. And we will conclude the episode with this, and inshallah in the coming episodes we will continue the discussion on mass authentications, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.